Hey guys, OJ Albini here, bringing you guys my APA Little Cup Wi-Fi Season 3 draft analysis. Third season of Little Cup Wi-Fi on the channel. I'm really excited. This league actually, I co-run with my buddy Bullen. Really do love this league a lot. I've had some great times in the first two seasons and hope we continue this season with our new team. As you can see on the thing, we're rocking out with the Miami Bagon, the baby version of, Big Men's there. Shout out to John for cooking up that logo for me and all that good stuff. Really excited to break in the new team and hopefully have another successful season of Little Cup. We went in season 1, we went 10-0 in the regular season, and then we ended up dropping the first round of playoffs, which is very unfortunate. But we still played pretty good during the season, nonetheless. And then last season we went 8-2, I believe, after a pretty rough start. I think we started off 1-2, and then won 7 straight to go 8-2, and we end up losing in semifinals to my boy Dai. So if the pattern continues, potentially we'll see a finals appearance, but hopefully the pattern doesn't continue too much, so we don't lose in finals and win season 4. I want to win this season, so hopefully we can do so. We have a pretty cool team this time around. Really excited to use it. So yeah, with that being said, let's kind of just jump into it. So we had the 8th pick overall. There was 2 draft pools just because of the fact that this is Wi-Fi. It's a little bit of a limited pool based on how many Little Cup mods there are and how viable there are and all that good stuff. So we split the 20 coach, list into 2 draft pools. We were in one of the pools. I think we were pool 1 or 2. It doesn't matter. But we ended up having the 8th pick overall. So pretty garbage pick. But we're pretty close to the wheel. So my goal was just to grab the best thing available left on the board and kind of go from there. And much to my surprise, round 1, I look and I see Gastly chilling there. I love Gastly in Little Cup. This thing is an absolute monster. Base 80 speed and 100 special attack is insane for Little Cup. We hit that nice speed tier of 18 at max speed, which outspeeds a good majority of the metagame, especially this limited pool of mons here in Generation 8. 100 special attack, we're hitting 20 with Modest, which is, again, insane how much damage that really ends up dropping. Obviously, he has great coverage, and Shadow Ball gets Sludge Wave this generation. Prior, only Gengar got Sludge Wave, but Gastly gets it this gen, which is cool. It's that nice little, damage buff. Great coverage and Dazzling Gleam, Giga Drain, Thunderbolts, stuff like that. Hits really Psychic as well, so it hits very hard with that. It has great utility options with its great speed and Haze and Hex, so like Willow Hex sets are definitely a very viable option. Also has access to Destiny Bond and Clear Smog if we're really scared of some crazy setup. There's Clear Smog is just a damaging Haze, I suppose, but has access to Trick Room, which can actually be a pretty fun option if we want to run like room servers or something crazy like that. We have access to Sucker Punch, so on Life Orb sets, if we really need that extra priority to knock something out, the Life Orb Sucker Punch or something like that, totally something we can do. I really do appreciate this mod a lot. It actually, fun fact, was banned from Gen 8 Little Cup, the standard Smogon tier. So the fact that this thing dropped all the way to 8 to us is insane. I cannot wait to use this mod. I think it's going to be a great focal point of our draft, and hopefully we can put in some work with it. I think it's going to do very well for us. So next up, I kind of wanted to grab something that would, complement our Gastly pretty well here. I initially was going to grab Scraggy, our Season 1 MVP. I think it went like 17 and like 17-5, 17-4 or 3 or something like that. Went in for us in Tier 2 and Gen 7. It's a Tier 1 mod in this gen though. And I did want to try it, but I also wanted to try something new. So I thought it would be pretty cool to actually pick up some webs with Gastly. We ended up picking up Cutiefly, which is another mod that was banned in Gen 7 Little Cup. I don't think it's banned in Gen 8 as of right now, but there is kind of a complex type ban on this thing. We can't use Quiver Dance with it, which is unfortunate. This thing with Quiver Dance would be nasty. I probably would have taken this thing round 1, but still very solid nonetheless. It gives us actually something faster than Gastly, so our speed is going to be pretty insane. We're going to have 2 mons that outspeed the majority of our opponent a good majority of the time. Like, this thing's going to be incredibly fast. It's very strong with, not very strong, it's pretty strong with the base 55 special attack. Fairy types are very important in this gen. It also has access to Sticky Web, which is going to be the main calling card of this. If we can get up webs for Gastly and make it to where those Scarfers that were set to outpace us don't, Gastly's going to go crazy. It's going to go insane because it echoes so much of the metagame. I really do think the web support with it is really nice for us. It has access to Momentum and U-Turn. Obviously, Bug Buzz, its other stab. It gets access to Calm Mind. Since we can't use Quiver Dance, we can definitely use Calm Mind. Stun Spore for Trick Sport. Speed, more speed control. Also has access to stuff like Switcheroo and Trick. Very, very cool one. Also dual screens, so another potential option with some of the setup that we draft later in the draft. I think Cutiefly is going to be a big offensive threat, as well as a very big, great support mon for the team. The only unfortunate thing about it is that it no longer gets a hidden power to hit those steel types. So we're going to have to grab some stuff that breaks through those steels that, will potentially give Cutiefly and Gastly a little bit of trouble because you're usually bulky enough to take a hit from it. So yeah, that's going to be Cutiefly. Hopefully it puts in a decent amount of work for us this season. Now, that was kind of my basic wheel pick, not pseudo wheel pick. We were about 2 off from the wheel, but we grabbed 2 really solid ones together, and then we had to wait a long time, and things were just dropping like flies. So many things were gone by the time we came around, but then it got back to my pick, and again, I looked in tier 2. I wanted to grab more great offense, stuff that would take advantage of my webs, stuff that would appreciate that U-turn in on the steel type, stuff like that. And I saw a couple pretty crazy mons that we ended up drafting here in tier 2. So let's just jump right into it. First up, we grabbed Corphish. I haven't ever tried Corphish in Little Cup before, and I'm very excited to do so. This thing is a monster offensively. It is so strong with that base 80 attack plus the adaptability boost. You're going to be clicking Crab Hammer and Aqua Jet most of the time. This thing is pretty insanely strong. Has access to Dragon Dance and Swords Dance, which is obviously really nice. Very middling speed. It hits, I think it hits 14 with a Jolly Nature, so it's pretty slow, honestly. But again, you have that Swords Dance option with Aqua Jet. You also have Dragon Dance, like I said. Cool coverage options like Knock Off, X-Scissor for grasses. You can go mixed because you have 50 special attacks. You can throw on a Sludge Bomb or an Ice Beam for those grasses, stuff like that. Has access to Taunt. It's very, very bulky with an Eviolite too. It has base 65 defense, very low death, but with the Eviolite you can definitely, boost that up. And obviously that's going to help you facilitate like Swords Dance sweeps and, Dragon Dance sweeps. If you EV this thing correctly and give it an Eviolite, it's pretty much going to get a guaranteed setup opportunity off. So I think Corphish is very, very solid in that respect. And it's one of those mons where speed tiers are so weird in Little Cup. With webs up, if we're running a fast Corphish, some things are just, most of our opponent's teams are probably not going to outspeed us, and the stuff that does is going to be frail enough to drop to an Aqua Jet, and I really love that priority option with Corphish. I really do. And it sets up on a majority of those steel types that really give Cutiefly that trouble. So, really do like Corphish for this build. It's an absolute monster offensively. Really just drop giant Crab Hammers and Aqua Jets and punch holes through teams, or potentially clean up late game with that SD Aqua Jet set or something like that. So yeah, really like Corphish on this build. And then next up, I wanted to grab even more momentum, and we grabbed my boy Bunnelby. Bunnelby is a menace in Little Cup. This thing is so strong. I mean, 36 base attack, you look and you're like, that's awful. But then you take into account that that is a huge power boosted. So it's incredibly strong, way stronger than most things. As long as they don't have something that's going to cancel out our ability, we're going to be hitting really hard with U-turn for momentum, Earthquake, which isn't stab, but obviously still hits really hard. It's great for a normal type to have that Earthquake option to hit those steels and those rocks that want to come in and resist our normal type moves, because normal spam is definitely a very, very good thing in Little Cup. It's definitely very, very solid. There's a lot of strong normal types that potentially threaten, opponents and stuff like that. The only unfortunate thing, though, is the removal of return. That means Bunnelby lost its most reliable stab option this generation, and unlike Diggersby, it actually does not get Body Slam, which is really, really unfortunate. The fact that it doesn't get Body Slam means our best physical stab options that we really have are going to be Facade and Takedown for just normal attacks. And Takedown, obviously, we're taking a bunch of recoil, and it's actually missing as well, which obviously isn't fun. Some of the time, it's 85% accurate. So we will run it if we need to, but Facade is also a really good option just because we're going to be able to bait in those burns and throw off ginormous facades. So that's obviously really nice if we can, bait in a burn or like try and get toxic or something like that. We can definitely do some work like that. But it also has access to quick attack, which is really cool. So we have that priority option for our stab, which is really good on potential Sword Dance sets. It also has access to bulk up, but if you're running a setup Bunnelby, you're either running agility or you're running Sword Dance, which is obviously super, super nice for us right there. And again, access to U-turn. This thing is going to be pretty one-dimensional. It's going to be choiced, or it's going to be Life Orb setup, and it's going to punch holes through your opponent's team. Most of the time, not going to be sweeping, but it's going to be punching ginormous holes. So that's going to be really solid, especially with webs. We're not going to be forced to run Scarf Bunnelby every week because it's another mon that's not very fast, honestly. 57 base speed, so that means with a Jolly Nature, it hits 16 speed, which again isn't incredibly fast, but with webs up and having that speed control, we're going to be outspeeding the majority of our opponent's threats and being able to throw off pretty big hits there. So that's obviously super clean for Bunnelby right there. And then next up, I wanted to grab a dark type, and I was looking around and there was like nothing left. So I was like, oh, word, I'll grab Purloin. I love the prankster support, yada yada yada. It's, you know, a great support mon. But then after the draft, I looked, and Purloin does not have access to the prankster anymore, which is incredibly unfortunate because this mon would have been amazing for this build if it still had access to prankster. But nonetheless, not the biggest deal in the world. It's still decently fast. It still has a great support move pool. It's just we're not really going to be able to take advantage of that, you know, that prankster annoyance. It's just not released up to this point. And even if it gets released during the season, we obviously will not be able to use it. But it still has access to moves like Encore, Baton Pass, and we can dry pass this season. We can't pass substitutes, we can't pass stats. We can definitely Baton Pass and, like, you know, bait some things in. We can fake out, we can foul play. Grass Knot Gunshot has access to Home Claws for setup, Nasty Plot as well. Even though it's not the strongest thing in the world, it has 50 in both of its attacks. So we can go with either one. Has access to quick attack for priority, which is another option. Thunder Wave, Trick, U-turn. Oh, it gets U-turn, so probably aren't ever using Baton Pass if we can't pass stats, but it's nice. Sucker Punch for more priority, so it's a pretty solid mon, just support-wise for our team. Hit 17 speed, so we pretty much patched up our higher speed tiers very, very well with 16, 17, 18, 19, I think. So that's obviously really, really good for us. I like Purloin. I don't like it as much because it doesn't have that access to prankster anymore, but it's still going to be pretty solid nonetheless, giving us that dark type. To, you know, threaten those psychics that Gastly doesn't appreciate and all that good stuff. So yeah, next up we have Bonsly right here. Now Bonsly was actually moved up this generation to tier when we were doing the tiering and stuff, just because of one, the limited mons and stuff like that. We need to flesh out the tiers, and two, I think this mon's incredibly slept on. I've drafted it a bunch of times in the Little Cup. It is a very, very reliable stealth rocker, and that's something we needed on this build desperately. Sturdy Juice is obviously a great option for us to run, just so we can guarantee get up our rocks and get back up to full. Maybe we'll throw off a hit, maybe self-destruct. It also has access to Endure, so we can, you know, guaranteed proc that Sturdy guaranteed proc that Berry Juice if need be, which is obviously really, really great for us. Rock Slide is going to be an option. I don't think it gets Rock Blast, which is unfortunate for Little Cup. Does not, but it gets Rock Tomb to lower speed. Has access to Stomping Tantrum for ground coverage, so that kind of Edge Quake, discount Edge Quake. Sucker Punch for priority. Self-destruct, like I said, access to foul play, you know, some cool options like that. It's going to be a good low-tier rocker. It's going to be able to check flying types, which is also another really nice thing on this team. We don't have a flying resist yet, so Bonsly is going to be pretty important in that respect. I really do think it's a pretty solid tier 3 this generation, despite, you know, being a tier 4 last gen. I think it definitely has value on this build and stuff like that. So yeah, that's going to be Bonsly, gives us our first rocker, which is very, very important. And I wanted to grab another one after that. So we ended up grabbing Golett. I wanted a ground type, obviously. This is double ghost, but I don't think that's the biggest deal in the world. Actually having 2 normal immunities is pretty nice because, again, our only normal resistance is going to be Bonsly. So having Golett to be a bit of a more sturdy normal immunity is nice. It gives us a ground type so we're not volt switched all over. And, you know, momentum isn't a problem there. It gives us a sturdy rocker. It gives us a, not sturdy, like, you know, the ability, but sturdy as in it's going to be able to take hits and be annoying and stuff like that. I think it lost Rock Polish this gen. Yeah, it did, which is really unfortunate, but it's still very, very strong. Elemental Punches with Iron Fist. We're going to be able to throw out Drain Punches as well. Earthquakes, Shadow Punches, Rock Slide. You know, options like that. It did not get access to its hidden ability yet, though, which is unfortunate. No Guard is not available for us just yet. So no guard dynamic punch sets, which is unfortunate because I actually wanted to run that one of my matches already I've been prepping for. So not the biggest deal in the world, but we'll take it. I do think it's a pretty solid ground type for tier 3. And it was honestly the best option left, despite being double ghost. Again, I don't think that's too big of a deal on this build in particular. And spoilers, we're not going to draft anymore. So we'll be okay in that respect. So I'm excited to use Golett, another one I haven't tried. Very good natural bulk. We can run with an Eviolite, with a juice, you know, Colbur Berry, all that good stuff. And then next up, we drafted our tier 4. We're actually going to have to draft 2 tier 4s this draft just because of how our points ended up aligning. And the first one we grabbed was a big Yamper just because he's so damn cute. All jokes aside, though, he's not the worst tier 4, in my opinion. He's very slow, which is unfortunate. It's not the bulkiest thing in the world. It's not the frailest thing, but it is incredibly slow right there. But it's also not really a good ability either. It has Rattled as its other potential hidden ability, which makes its speed raised by 1 if it's hit by a bug dart or ghost type move, or if it's intimidated. which is nice because we can run special, and this thing has a lower special attack stat, but we can run special. Has access to Volt Switch for momentum, Discharge for, you know, special electric stab. Other than that, you're running Snarl though, which is definitely not the best in the world. Nuzzle though, which is really nice. It has access to Fire Fang and Crunch and what do you call it? Wild Charge. Oh, it has access to Thunderbolt too. Duh. I was like, why doesn't it get Thunderbolt? It has access to Play Rough, so decent enough coverage to hit hit a good majority of the game neutrally, but it's not the strongest thing. It's not the bulkiest thing. Gave us a good tier 5 though. I mean tier 4. Trying to transfer that over from standard and all this stuff, but yeah, and it gives us good momentum, gives us an electric type. There wasn't really anything left in the tiers that I thought was better, especially in tier 4, so I figured the Emperor was a pretty good pickup there, and nonetheless he can sit on the bench and look really cute this season if he doesn't end up coming to too many games. Next up we got tier 2 with our second to last free pick, which is going to be Delaria Meowth. We didn't have a steel type up to this point, and despite some people disagreeing with me, I still think getting a steel type in LC is very important if you can afford one. Getting that fairy resist when there's so many scary fairies like the Spritzies of the world, getting that normal and flying resist, it's just a good defensive typing to have. And this one in particular is very, very strong. It has the ability to Tough Claws and 65 base attack, so you're hitting 15 attack with an Adamant Nature with that Tough Claws boost on most of your attacks. You're going to be hitting pretty hard, and despite its middling speed of only hitting 14 at max speed, again, we have access to webs, which is going to be really, really solid for this thing. Throwing on big iron heads, it gets access to U-turn, fake out for priority, gets access to... Unfortunately, there's not a lot of coverage that it gets. I think that's one of the downsides to it. Throat Chop, Night Slash, Crunch, so some Dark Stab. Gets access to Gunk Shot if we ever need that for like a really bulky grass. Body Slam with Awesome Pairs, Double Edge. So there's pretty good options. It also gets access to Sword Stance, which is really good for you know, potential setup sets under webs, and we're not going to need a bunch of coverage on this thing because it doesn't get a bunch of coverage. Oh, it also gets Play Rough, which is cool. And then it also gets access to Taunt, which is really nice just to be that annoying bulky taunter. It gives us a really good fairy resist though. I think this thing's going to be pretty bulky with an Eviolite. 50 HP, 55 defense. I wanted a more sturdy flying and normal resist besides Bronzely. I don't want to have to bring Bronzely every week, especially being that we have another Rocker and Golett. So I figured Meowth would kind of fit the bill there, and I'm actually really excited to use it. I like Berserker in the lower tiers, so I feel like this guy will be pretty fun here too. And we had regular Meowth on our Season 2 team, and it was my boy. It went in last season, so I'm hoping we get similar results with the Galarian form right here. And then lastly, with our last free pick, we ended up picking a P-Dove. I've drafted P-Dove before. Not my favorite mon. I will be honest, I do not like P-Dove at all, but we had no removal up to this point. Very similar to our Season 1 team in which we drafted P-Dove. We did not have any removal on that team, and this is our removal on this team. So we drafted P-Dove simply because of that. It does have access to Super Luck as an ability, so, you know, if we get, you know, a few cheeky crits there, that would obviously be super, super nice. It gets access to Heat Wave now, which is kind of cool for steals, even though it doesn't have the strongest special attack stat. Didn't get access to Brave Bird, even though Unpheasant did, and that makes me so sad. But it gets access to Roost. It gets access to Defog, which is obviously the main selling point with this guy right here. As for Physical Flying Stab, it has access to nothing but Fly and Sky Attack. So we might be running Special a pretty good amount of the time, but, you know, we could be running like some cheeky Air / Heat Wave sets. It's not going to be the strongest thing in the world. It's not going to be the best thing in the world, but it gets U-Turn, it gets Defog, it gets Roost, which is going to be the main thing we want this for. It also gets Taunt and Wish, which is nice, and a cheeky Tailwind might be nice here and there. And then Stab, Quick Attack for priority is obviously great. That's going to be its physical stab, though, besides Facade, so that's going to be something also very, very interesting. Endure, that could be fun, you know, maybe a very juice set. Who knows? Hypnosis if we're feeling extra crazy. This thing's not going to be the craziest thing in the world. It's not going to be the best. It's going to come to very few matchups it's going to come to the matchups in which I really, really need removal. Like if I let webs go up, I lose. If I let, if I let rocks go up and this mod takes this chip, I lose. Those are everything P-Dove comes to. I brought it 2 or 3 times in Season 1. It did nothing but defog in those games, but it defogged, which was very, very important for, you know, us winning those games and stuff like that. So I don't think it's the worst tier 4, that's for sure, but it's definitely not my favorite. I think it'll work nonetheless, and yeah. That's going to be our Season 3
Little Cup Wi-Fi draft. I really love it. I think their team's incredibly threatening on paper. It's more so how we, apply it and practice it from here on out. I'm excited to use stuff like our first four. Where are they at? I'm gonna just go to slide 4. Our first four are terrifying. Gastly, Corphish, Bunnelby, Cutify are going to come to like 95% of games. There's going to be like maybe 1 or 2 games this season in which all 4 of these do not come on a game. They are terrifying for our opponents to deal with. We can overwhelm a lot of builds just with these guys right here. So I'm excited to be able to try that out. We have some cool balls like Delaria and Meowth that I want to try. Goal, it's going to be a good time. So we have a pretty solid team nonetheless. I hope we can do well with it. And if you guys are excited and you're new here, be sure to drop a sub and all that good stuff just to catch our games as they go up every week, whether it be for Little Cup, whether it be for GDL, and another league in which I have a draft analysis going